Hello, everyone. Welcome back, or for the first time, to the Fresh Paint Showcase, part of Plein Air Easton 2021 festival this year. And this is our 3 o'clock live Facebook hour, or not, in the 3 o'clock hour live on Facebook. And we're here with the professionals from Academy Art Museum in Easton. And I want to welcome Mehves, Lelic, and Sarah Jesse, who are Mehves, you're the curator. So you can speak up a little bit. Sarah, you are
I'm the director of the museum.
Director. Okay, so Mehves has done this before. Sarah, this is your first time at Plein Air Easton, so I'm going to kind of turn it over to both of you. I've always enjoyed hearing what you've had to say about the paintings in the past, so I'm really looking forward to what you have to say about these three. Take it away, and I'll be here to help you move it along. But you've got 3 paintings here, and let everybody know what you think of them, and what you see in them.
Great.
Yeah, it's thrilling to be here. Best of luck to all the painters painting at Plein Air Easton this year. We picked 3 paintings from the Fresh Paint Showcase that we'd like to share with you. Great. And we can start with this one.
Who's that? Now, who's that one?
Jill
Caldwell.
Jill. Who is it, Nick?
Glassman. Jill Glassman.
Jill Glassman. Okay, yeah.
I was particularly interested in the brushwork in this painting, as well as the feeling that you're kind of trapped behind this tree that's leaning into the water. This is a very familiar landscape around here, as some of us know, but I was really interested in the fact that it wasn't particularly focusing on a wonderfully healthy scene, but rather kind of the overgrowth of plants and water that kind of come up to each other.
Sarah?
Same. I would echo what Mehves has said. I'm really attracted to it. I think the brush strokes are really juicy and very beautiful, and you can see the source of light in the painting, and it just looks like the kind of place you might happen upon and want to spend a little time.
Sure. Matt, before we go on, just to sort of, where did you study, and what is your background, that sort of, just quickly, not long, not your whole doctoral thesis or.
I don't have one, so it's going to be very short. I went to the University of Chicago. I got my BA there, and I'm currently a grad student at Bard College. I've been curator at Academy Art Museum for almost a year and a half now. And prior to that, I was working with the exhibition schedule and permanent collection at Salisbury University. And I've also worked at MCA Chicago.
Right, and you've been here now, what, a year and a half?
Yeah, almost.
And Sarah, what about you? You're just been here a month.
Yeah, I just moved here a month ago from California. Most recently, I was at the Orange County Museum of Art, and prior to that, the LA County Museum of Art. And I have an art history degree undergrad from Oberlin College in Ohio and grad school at University of Illinois at Chicago. I also worked at the MCA Chicago at a different time than Mehves as well. But I've worked in different museums around the country, and am really thrilled to be at the Academy Art Museum and here in Easton.
Now, the reason I was kind of wanted to talk about that just for a second is when you talk about this, I've been really starting to finally grasp the whole concept of plein air painting. It's taken me 17 years to do it. Does this remind you of anyone, or can you see how that's different than something that, say, is not plein air, that sort of thing?
Oh, yeah. Right, yes. Well, I think what's interesting for me looking at art through my own personal lens is I just moved here, so I have not previously spent time here on the Eastern Shore, and the geography is so beautiful and striking. And this is the kind of place that looks kind of familiar to me, but it's very specific to this context, and I think that's what's great about Plein Air Easton, too, for somebody like me, is that I'm getting to know some of the local areas as well through painting.
Mehves, anything on that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm particularly interested in the almost rough-looking brushstrokes because it reminds me of a time in art history with Impressionism when representation turns from really focusing on giving an extremely high-fidelity kind of view of what the artist is looking at to a rendering. So what the artist is doing is she's looking at kind of the colors, and she's creating brushstrokes that give us an impression of what the scene in front of her is looking like.
Right.
And I think that's really valuable because there's so much to work with around here. There's so much nature. So that's what I was particularly interested in. And I can imagine completely being, fascinated by this as a child just because, the tree is so climbable,
Right,
right?
yeah, right, exactly.
It immediately kind of...
Exactly. All right, ladies, next one. Sure, what do
Should we
you
look
want
at
to
the-
gravitate towards?
Nocturne?
Sure, the nocturne.
This is a nocturne by Brandon Sills. We were really interested in it because it's so eye-catching in midst of all the green. This extremely, this Parliament blue scene, in the night. And the most striking things about it are subtle. So we have a crescent moon that's extremely subtle, that's not the center of the painting at all, and yet it contributes so much. And the other thing I noticed that it really gave me the impression of being in this really hot, hazy, humid, condensing night.
Sarah?
Yeah, I think the artist is really skilled at taking forms and evoking this scene just with a paintbrush and some paint. It's pretty incredible when you look up close, just the different shades of blue and how the artist was able to depict a scene like this. I mean, it's so atmospheric. Again, it's the kind of place you just want to spend time. And riffing on the detail of the crescent moon, there's also the detail of the reflection on the water, which gives it depth. And if you look up close, they're just these tiny little specks of white paint, and somehow through the skilled artist's hand is able to create this sense of light.
Does that remind you of anyone? In history? It doesn't have to. I was just...
Yeah, I mean, well, there's definitely the atmospheric kind of hazy water scene. I feel like we've seen throughout art history, but this is very specific too. At the same time as evoking those earlier pieces.
And just, I mean, could you talk about maybe the difference in the two?
Oh yeah, good question.
And again, this is John Brandon Sills here. Sarah, you want to talk about the difference a little bit, or Mehves?
Well, yeah. I mean, just upon first glance, I think the big fat brushstrokes on this one versus the finer detail on that painting is pretty striking. It shows kind of two very distinct ways to work outside. What would you say?
Yeah, and I think additionally, this one is so invested in texture and, color transitions between the water and the earth and the trees, whereas here, because it's low light, the form that things take in the night when you can't quite see become much more important. You can almost see the way that the vines wrap around the trees, but not quite. So what you're doing is you're projecting what you believe the scene to be under, actual sunlight. And I'd like to think if the artist were here, I would ask whether this is a neighbor, because you know how on the creeks around Talbot County, you can always see kind of the opposing bank, and you can see a little bit of the house, and maybe they're having a porch party or something. So I like the mystery as well. This is much more invested in concealing the forms than making them obvious like that one.
Okay, great. Ladies, can we go on to the third one?
Yeah.
Who is that?
This is Thomas Bucci.
Uh-huh.
And I'm actually going to go ahead and say I picked this, and not solely, it's a very skilled work, but I really love the traffic cone, just because it's such an unusual kind of daily oddity to include in a plein air painting. Plein air is so invested in the landscape, so invested in making it look pristine and beautiful, and really bringing out the most striking natural elements about it. And yet the artist has chosen to include this cone, which is a part of our life now because we drive all the time. And I thought that was really interesting and very attention-oriented.
Sarah?
I think this is the kind of work that really rewards you when you look at it up close, because from further away, you can clearly see movement in the water, but then when you get up close, you see what is creating that and these kinds of stains of paint doing that. It's very technically skilled, and also, again, it's just one of those scenes where you kind of want to enter into and maybe hang out here on a Saturday and spend the day.
Now, did you two pick these three together? Did you agree on these three?
Well, We do, after Mehves picked them, I concurred.
Concurred.
That's what directors do.
But I
right, that's
thought, we usually are pretty in sync in terms of our taste, but I also loved the idea of the parking cone for the exact same reason, because, I mean, plein air is idealized in a way, but it's also because the landscape itself is so idyllic in and of itself. And so a lot of plein air painting is just sheerly beautiful. And not that a traffic cone isn't beautiful, but it is kind of reminding us more of everyday life than it is escapist into just pure nature.
Now, in terms of the way they used to use plein air when they first started, as kind of studies, and then they would bring them back to the studios as kind of paint. Can you see how those are studies, or is there anything, or are these beyond that?
We would have to ask the artists and see what their intentions are, I think.
Yeah.
I feel like this could be a wider painting, perhaps. There's more happening around that we can't see because it's focused on such a narrow, almost photographic scene by a dock. But yeah, you'll have to get the artists up here.
Right, I would love to hear more from the artists, but I mean, definitely the works stand on their own as is.
Okay, great. Do you have any questions out in the audience? Anybody have anything they want to ask? I'll tell everybody out in Facebook or what you asked. Is that appealing at all? Well, Mehves and Sarah, thank you both very much for coming out today. They are going to be here Tuesday and Wednesday as well for the Fresh Paint Showcase. I don't know if they'll do more paintings than 3. Maybe we'll get brave and pick 5 or 6 next time. But they're kind of giving you an inside look at what's going on this week with the plein air painters, the 58 artists who've come down to paint in Plein Air Easton 2021. All the galleries, the satellite galleries in Oxford, Tillman, St. Michael's, and here at the Armory in Easton will be open through Wednesday. Then the whole exhibit comes back and is featured here and in the Academy Art Museum over right across the street. Please, I'm sorry? Everything is on sale. Yes, it's all on sale. You can buy anything here. So thank you very much for watching. Thank you, ladies, for coming across to the street and doing this. And we look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Sounds great. See you then.
Thanks.